Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men, says the Lord.
What are you talking about?
It's been on my mind. It's been on my mind.
All week?
Yes. It's the gospel for this weekend. Mark chapter 1.
Pescados de Muerte?
Come after
Wait,
me,
that's
and I will make you fishers of men.
Pescado de hombre.
Pecado?
Pecado.
No.
I always get that mixed up in Spanish. I just said fishers of death, and then fishers of the hungry, and then fishers of men.
The Spanish word for, in English, like there's certain words that sound like other words. Well, that is also, of course, true in Spanish. And the word pescado, which is fish, and the word pecado, which is sin.
Or hombre, which is man, and hambre, which is hungry.
Which is hungry.
The fisher of hungry.
And the fishers of sin.
I said it one
Fishers
time.
of sin? Oh, no.
I
That's
said
bad.
the son of hungry one time during a mass in Spanish. In Mexico,
Oh.
it was embarrassingly hilarious. I said, hijo de hambre.
Son of hungry.
And Father Samuel Perez, who's up in Miami now, we were in Guadalajara together. He just laughed. I could hear him
That's
chuckling.
pretty funny.
And he's like, afterwards he said, hombre, chico.
That's pretty
hombre.
funny. All right, well, welcome to Pastors of Pain.
Yeah.
We are two priests here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, Payne County.
Red Dirt Riviera.
And we have a show. It's a podcast and a radio show. It's a radio show in that it is on the radio here in Stillwater on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. on Pete 94.3 and AM 780. So I know we have a lot of people that listen that way. And then it's also a podcast, which is out in all of the regular ways that podcasts get out and about. Apple, Spotify.
I was trying to tell Max Denny the other day of where he could find it. He goes, Pastors of Pain? That's a genius name. And I said...
You're darn right it is.
And I couldn't come up with the word
Genius.
iTunes. I came up with...
Apple
Podcasts. I like
Yeah.
Spotitude?
Spotitude?
And he's like, what? And I was trying to explain to Max. And he's like, I
Just
don't
say
know.
wherever you get your podcast.
Uh-huh.
And then we're also on the Oklahoma Catholic Broadcasting Network on Wednesdays at 3:30 across the state. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's our little way of just, as we've said many times before, our goal of this podcast is not, our audience is the people of Payne County.
Whoop, whoop,
The students of Oklahoma State,
Mhm.
the people of Stillwater and surrounding communities. And if it reaches beyond that, then we're totally fine with that.
If Voyager picks it up somewhere in the edges of the
If
galaxy,
my mom is listening, hey, Mom.
love you.
My dad, love you, Dad.
Your dad's a faithful listener.
My parents do listen.
I don't think my parents even know I'm on the radio.
I don't think they even know you exist.
Cuts
but
like
we-
a knife. And it
we
feels so right.
So one of the things that we get to do as priests, being a priest, we're going to talk about how being a priest is awesome because it is.
something we get to do as priests, like baptize babies.
No, something we get to do as priests is we get to immerse ourselves.
Wear
in
really
the
cool clothes?
scriptures. Yes, of course. But we get to immerse ourselves in the scriptures.
Okay.
Because we have to preach a lot. In fact, every day
That's true.
we're up and preaching. Now, daily mass typically, a homily
8 to
is,
15 minutes.
for me is 3 minutes. For Father Carey is 26. But then of course on Sundays it's much
40,
longer.
45 minutes?
No,
Is that what you do?
that's a long time. No. So we immerse ourselves in the scriptures, and so there's just this sort of constant treasure trove of God's word imbuing itself like in our lives. And so this Sunday, the gospel is Mark chapter 1.
Oh, yeah.
And it has this famous line. So it says, after John had been arrested, Jesus came to Galilee proclaiming the gospel of God, etc. As he passed by the Sea of Galilee, this is Jesus, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting their nets into the sea. They were fishermen. Jesus said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." Then they abandoned their nets and followed him. He walked along a little farther and saw James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They too were in a boat, mending their nets. Then he called them. So they left their father Zebedee in the boat along with the hired men and followed him.
Which I love. I love that scene.
That's 4 apostles in 10 minutes.
And it's also the first call scene.
I love it. I just love that, man. It just kicks my butt every time.
Yeah, well, okay.
They just dropped their nets and they followed him.
And then they went back later because Jesus had to go out and call them again. Remember when he shows up in the morning and he's like, hey guys, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we've been fishing all night and caught nothing. And he's like, well, let's put out the nets for a catch. I don't know where that Irish accent came.
Jesus is Scottish?
Scott. And they go out, and that's when they catch such a big amount of fish that they're like the co-workers in the boat have to bring their boat over because the nets are tearing. That's the second call scene. Remember Killing Jesus? Remember that book you and I gave to each other? It was called Killing Jesus.
I don't think.
I didn't. I listened to the audio version. You gave me the audio version?
Yeah.
And I was
I
listening
don't think you ever gave it back, so I never listened to it. Thanks.
No, you listened to it before me.
Oh.
But I didn't realize until Bill O'Reilly made mention of it in that book. I was like, wait a second, there's a second call scene? Where Jesus goes out and gets them again and like, hey, dudes, when I said come and follow me when I passed you by. It's interesting, like in the Gospel of Mark, when the word pass by, it's the same wording used in the Old Testament when God passes by his people. When he doesn't mean to like walk past them, it means he comes into their presence with great force and with great power. He shows up.
Wow.
There in their midst.
Yeah.
He's not just like, hey guys, what's going on? And he's on a motorino, neat, having a cappuccino and passes them by. No, it's supposed to bring it back from the Old Testament to say, this is God visiting his people. Because he passed by Moses.
Wow.
And he passed by Elijah on the mountain.
That's one of my favorite St. Jose Maria Escrivá books. It's called Christ is Passing By.
Ooh.
I digress. Okay, so what I love about this is just so dang dramatic. They're out there, they're fishing, right? They're just doing what they do all day. They are fishermen. He comes and he calls them, and they drop their nets and they follow him. Just the idea of this kind of dramatic, I think a lot of times people kind of want to have it both ways.
Okay.
And I think one of the things I love about being a priest is, and this is not to the detriment, I'm not disparaging any other, vocation, but as priests, we're kind of all in. Like, we're, when you conform, when you become a priest, you conform, and we're still working on it, work in progress, but you conform your life to that of Jesus and try to live like Jesus as much as we can, even to the point that we don't get married, we don't have families, because Jesus didn't.
Correct.
To be as much like him as possible, even to the point of like giving up the goodness of marriage and family. And so there's something that was very attractive to me as a priest, was like the kind of the all in nature of it. That my whole life is defined by that I'm a priest. And I love that. And to be able to dedicate one's life solely and totally to the spreading of the gospel in eastern Oklahoma.
Yes. And I agree.
How fun is that?
It is beautiful.
That's amazing.
I like that the good God called me and keeps calling me to encounter himself. Now, last week when we talked about like how to know the Lord and how to follow him.
Yep.
Or how to come to know that Jesus is God. It's that constant like nudge each day. It's the constant reminder. It's the spending time with the liturgy, the hours early in the morning and during the celebration of Mass, that the Lord is just always calling us back. It's like, Lord, I didn't do a very good job of being your disciple today. I didn't do a very good job of being your priest today.
Have mercy on me, a sinner.
Yeah.
Well, and then I just love the idea of just being all in. And there's something to that, and just that kind of the radicality of it. And so I think this might be worth our time just to encourage, I think especially the students of Oklahoma State, and then also the young people of my parish, whether in a high school, middle school, young adults. I would make this contention that every Catholic young man and young woman, all of them ought to seriously consider the priesthood, and religious life.
Okay.
All of them. I think people kind of think that's not for me, or that's not something I can even think about. But I think it should. I really want to. One of the things in kind of the culture shift here in Stillwater is to kind of change the culture so that it's a normal part. You know, like we had over the Christmas break, like we had seminarians around. I love having those seminarians around because it normalizes this. Seminarians are not like freak shows. Like these are normal guys who are struggling just like the rest of us, but who feel that God has called them to a particular place.
Who are responding to God's grace, like
responding to God's grace,
the joyful encounter with the gospel that they've met the Lord.
We're kind of impoverished here in Oklahoma, especially, with a real lack of religious sisters, because I think our young women don't see the beauty and the joy of religious sisters like they do. When they see here in Stillwater, right there, there's 3 priests. 4 if you count Father Greiner, who's retired, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But if you look at all 4 of us, we're all very different. But all 4 of us, me, you, Father Robert Duck, Father Jim Greiner, we like what we do.
Indeed.
We're passionate about it, and in different ways, different personalities. And so I think the young men of our community can see that. They see priesthood being lived out joyfully. And so it's my hope that every young man in our community, anyone listening to this right now, to actively pray, Lord, are you calling me to this way of life? But also the young women. Again, I think the disadvantage is the young women don't have as many
religious sisters,
role models to look at, which I think is very sad. But I think, but tell us about, you have on various occasions brought religious sisters to St. John's.
Yeah, so the religious sisters of Mercy of Alma, who taught me in seminary.
And they have a community in Tulsa.
Yeah, I mean, there's a surgeon there. There's a what is that? A neonatal
psychologist,
a neonatal intensive care unit nurse. There's a psychologist. Yeah, there's like 5 of these sisters there that are off the charts intelligent and fantastic. The Sisters of St. Francis and the Martyr of St. George in Tulsa. Jin Yu Burnham joined them. We've had 3 young women join the religious sisters. One was a Pi Phi at OSU. One was super involved. She was from the Archdiocese, and Jin Yu from Pond Creek. And so, through through our focused missionaries, through going to Seek and SLS and these conferences and going on mission trips and pilgrimages.
They do get to be around sisters.
They do get to see these religious communities.
Not in Stillwater per se, except for the occasional evening where they come and give a talk or something like that. But it just ought to be a normal part of every young Catholic's life to think about.
Well, Father Pratt's got those vocation discernment groups.
Yep.
Like he loves small groups. So he has a couple with some guys I think there was like 15 guys in 2 different groups. And then there was another 3 groups with like 18 girls. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think the culture is definitely growing. But I would love and this is something for everybody to pray for, for Stillwater to be, I think ought to be a major source of vocations for the diocese and for the larger church. And it should be a normal thing, like our bishop when he was at Texas A&M. Now, granted, Texas A&M, big university.
Right, yeah, sure.
But they had a very active Catholic students there, and it was a normal thing that every year 6, 8, 10 young men and women coming out of that student center
going off to religious life
would go off to the priesthood, to seminary, or to religious life.
I think at A&M they saw it as like there are people who are serving the country in the military. There are engineers. There are priests. We need those. There are nurses and doctors. There are religious sisters. There are wives. We need all those.
Yep.
It's like the body, the hand doesn't say to the foot, we don't need you. The mom doesn't say to the religious sister, we don't need you. The army officer doesn't say to the priest, I don't need you. These are necessary to live out one's vocation. And I think a lot of young men and women miss their vocation in life because they didn't discern it properly.
Yeah, they're distracted at a young age, or they
Right.
get into a relationship and it's not good for them, but they just stick around.
Kick them to the curb and go to religion. Did I just say that on the?
It's like dropping your nets.
Yes. And they just
Picture your boyfriend as a net.
and then
Drop him.
picture your girlfriend as a net and then throw her back in the boat and sail off with Jesus.
I love it. So one thing I know that I want to do this semester, and I haven't quite worked it all out yet, but I would like to do I'll back up. When I was in high school, my parish did it was just called by name, and it was like basically at mass one day they passed out a bunch of blank pieces of paper, and just asked the people write down the names of people in our parish
Oh.
that should consider the priesthood and religious life.
Didn't we call that throw under the bus Tuesday at Bishop Kelly?
Yeah. And then we did that at Bishop Kelly, and
Right.
it brought great fruit. We asked students who among your peers, I think that'd be so interesting to do at St. John's, because when it happened, a bunch of people. I was a freshman in high school, and a bunch of people put down my name. Now, when in my little freshman mind, the only people that wanted me to be a priest were one,
My mom.
my mother, and two, my grandmother, who are both awesome people.
It was Auntie praying your girlfriend, by the way.
No, that was Mary Rose. Mary Rose Buckley. Auntie prayed my girlfriend. And Mary Rose, right?
I was trying to get her
Mom, Grandma, and Mary Rose Buckley.
name. Your dad? Your dad?
My dad was not. I mean, he was certainly not opposed, but he wasn't. Hey, have you ever thought about? I think he was more kind of on the practical side of just, I want you to be happy, and if that's if that's the route you want to go.
Right. So this throw under the bus weekend.
So we just asked people for names of people in the parish who would consider the priesthood
cold call
or
list.
religious life.
Yeah.
And turns out, in that case, a bunch of people put my name. And I remember that being very encouraging to me. Oh, okay, so it's not just my mom and my grandma who are mandatory,
They have to say they love
But then
you.
I was also maybe my mom just grabbed a bunch of papers
and wrote it with
and
different
wrote my
hand.
name over and over again. But no, other people saw that in me. I'm gonna.
Oh, bless you. I agree.
I do not have COVID. I say that after every sneeze and every cough.
So people saw that in you that you didn't see necessarily.
So I think we should do that in Stillwater. What do you say?
I love it.
I'm putting you
should
on
we,
the spot, right?
Should we have a
here on the-
weekend when we do it? Should it be this gospel weekend?
That's going to be too close to organize.
No, I mean, it'll be super fast. All we do is a bunch of pieces of paper and some pens. Come on.
I don't know if I can organize that.
You don't have to organize it. You just have to pass out the papers and pens and then have people hand them to you on the way out.
Put them in the collection?
Oh, that there can be a collection basket at the end and people start put them in there. Maybe a chicken wing, pieces of paper.
I thought it was the trash.
I love that coming to America.
Let's talk about that off the air. Okay, I think we could do that.
Yeah.
Is it too early in the semester for you?
No, because we're far enough in that we can start throwing people under the
Okay.
bus.
I love that that's what you call it. But I think what I think would be amazing, I think a lot of young people would be amazed at whose names get brought up. Because I think people think it's I'm not super holy and people don't see me that way, which is not always what makes somebody called to priesthood or religious life.
Well, it also says that they see something, as you mentioned, your the three blind mice. I mean, I didn't mean to say that. The three old ladies who saw, I didn't mean to. It just kind of came out of my mouth.
Just called my mother, my grandmother, and one of the great spiritual mentors
three
of my
blind
life,
mice.
the three blind mice.
I opened my mouth and it came out, literally. It wasn't, it kind of wasn't.
What is happening right now?
I'm not sure. Even Jay's laughing. Okay, so anyway, but they saw something in you and your friends around you at St. Martha Mary Lazarus Friends of Jesus Catholic Church in Kingwood,
Correct,
Texas.
correct.
They saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself, and you said, "Wow, you know what? I maybe could do this." You didn't start off with like, well, if life doesn't work out, I'll be a priest.
And that's where I think some young people like have that mentality of like, all right, I'm going to do this and I'll do this. And if that all doesn't, I'm going to try to date this person and this person and this person. And if that doesn't work out, I'll probably just be a priest. We would say, no. That priesthood and religious life ought to be option one.
Ooh. You're saying like field goal's not an option. It's always head for the end zone.
No, and marriage, and I would say this, if you legit absolutely feel called to the sacrament of marriage, I have no intention of getting in your way. In fact, I want to encourage you and I want to help you prepare to have a happy and holy marriage. But I think way too many sort of immediately dismiss priesthood and religious life as not even an option. And I think that is a huge mistake in our church today. And it's happening right here in Stillwater, and that's no good.
No bueno.
Right.
Yeah, I love being a priest. But you know what?
It's the best.
There's those, one could take different avenues. Like you go to grad school, go to college, go to grad school, you study, become a teacher, join the military. You can go off, and I had a buddy who worked on a fishing boat for a year just because he just like didn't know what to do.
He left his nets.
He left the nets
and he's a priest now?
No, he's not a priest. But he didn't know what to do in life. And so sometimes there's different routes to be taken to this end goal. And so, you know what? It may not be just like, right off the bat, it's like, I want to be a priest. I know a dude who wanted to be a heart surgeon when he was 10. And so he set his path on becoming a heart surgeon. And now he is a heart surgeon. And some people at the age of 10 are like, I want to be a priest. Kind of like all the 10-year-old kids and young men in your parish. Tommy Cabine.
We're gonna dominate this sucker in about 10 years.
I know. If we could ordain 7 and 10-year-olds, we'd be covered in the priesthood. And so there are people that set their path on this that says, I want to be a priest. At the heart of this is whichever is staying close to the Lord Jesus Christ. Staying close and saying, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. I'm ready to hear your voice.
Yeah.
What will you have me do for?
I'll go.
What beautiful, I love that from Mother Teresa's like, do a beautiful thing for God today. Like, Lord, what do you want me to do beautiful for you with my life? And then it won't be a negotiating hostage situation with your vocation. You're like, well, Jesus, if you give me this, I'll go ahead and be a priest. It's like, no, it's like, here's the cross, dude.
Yep.
This is discipleship. Here's the cross. Take up your cross and follow after me. And now I'm going to call you this direction. I want you to do this and not that.
I think, too, there's also a misconception that you have to know, like when you're in high school or even in college. We have one of our seminarians he started seminary. He was in his mid-30s. Now, that's not the norm. I mean, I think most guys, it's kind of in that 18 to 25 range.
26, yeah.
But if you're outside of that, I went when I was 25. You were 26.
Yep.
If you're outside of that, there's still like amazing possibilities, and the same is true for religious women. I think there are orders who would say, we're looking for kind of somebody 30 and under. There's others who are like 40 and under, 50 and under. So the younger, in some sense, the younger you are, the better, in that you can sort of start earlier. But it's become, we have a lot of guys. We had Father James Porter was at our parish a couple weeks ago.
Oh, right.
Taking some time away from his parish. He went right out of high school. He graduated from high school and went to seminary. Father Vince Fernandez, Father David Carvajal. These are some of the more recently ordained guys in our diocese that went right out of high school. But then there's others who didn't. John Fincher was a couple years in college, then went.
Matthew Tracy.
Graduated from college. And then
went and lived in
Kyle
Oklahoma
Dowd
City.
Graduated from college, was a focused missionary for 2 years, then went. Matthew McLean, who I was talking about earlier, he's from Bartlesville. He's how old? He was in his mid-30s. So he worked in professional life, worked for Phillips.
Whoa.
And then discovered the call. And so there's all these different paths. And if you ask every religious sister, too, they're going to tell you some of them were 17, 18, 19, and others were 25 and 28 and 30. Right. And so there's all of these, kind of varying ages for it to happen. But no, I would just say this, no matter where you are, if you're listening to this, no matter where you are, if you're single, you ought to be considering the priesthood or religious life.
Agree.
But I would also say, many of you who maybe have already found your vocation, you're already a priest, you're already religious, you're married, you have kids, What are you doing to encourage vocations within our parish, within your parish, and within your own family? You know, if your son or daughter came up to you and said, "Hey, Dad," you know, your daughter's 12 years old, and she said, "Dad, I think I want to be a nun." Are you ready with a positive response? Or are you going to say, "Oh, honey, you know, come on, you know, you don't want to do that," because that can be very discouraging. Sure. If your son is 15 and walks up to you and says, "Dad, I think, you know, Mom, I think I want to be a priest," are you ready to say, "Son,
fantastic,
that's awesome. How can I help you? How can I pray for you? What can I do to help you along this path? Let me introduce you to some priests, or let's have some priests over to the house and talk about the priesthood." There's all these kind of options that parents need to be ready for to support vocations within the parish.
I would say another one, even in dating relationships, you should be discerning your vocation. Just because you're dating somebody doesn't mean you're going to marry them. So as you're discerning your vocation, as you're dating along, you could say to the other person, I'm actually supposed to be a priest. I'm sorry. And they, because they're growing in holiness with you, would say, I want you to do that. I want you to
be happy, yeah.
Yeah, I want you to fulfill your life. I want you to share the gospel with people. I want you to give your life to Jesus and his church. Awesome. Or if you're a girl, you're like, "Hi, I'm becoming a nun." And the guy should be like,
wow,
because
what a privilege
because he has modeled his life after St. Joseph and been a man of holiness and chastity and virtue, is saying, "Wow, pray for me lots when you become a sister."
Mm-hmm. How can I support you? How can I pray for you?
Can I drive you there right now and drop you off? Because this is our last date.
So last February, Father Pratt and I took a bunch of guys, including a lot of OSU guys, up to Kenrick Seminary in St. Louis.
Huh? Kenrick?
Oh,
Kendrick Glennon,
and
right.
It was
okay.
And it was Valentine's weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Which was the weekend that Father Pratt could go, and there was the weekend I could go, so that was the weekend we chose. Anyway, and there were, I don't know, half the van had girlfriends.
Stop.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. And they basically had to tell their girlfriend, like, "Look, I can't be with you on Valentine's Day because I'm going to visit a seminary.
I'm thinking about, it's not like, "Hey, I'm thinking about dumping you." It's, "Hey, I'm discerning my vocation."
Yeah. And plus, Valentine's Day is kind of stupid.
Oh,
okay.
St. Valentine's Day, you don't like him?
I love St. Valentine's.
Just the paganization of the Christian holidays is brutal.
That's a show. We could
paganizing
do a
religious holidays.
Okay, so back to where we started. Mark chapter 1.
Oh.
As he passed by the Sea of Galilee, this is the gospel this weekend.
We were talking about the gospel?
As he passed by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting their nets into the sea. They were fishermen.
Yep.
Jesus said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." Then they abandoned their nets and followed him. He walked along a little further and saw James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They too were in a boat, mending their nets. Then he called them. So they left their father Zebedee in the boat, along with the hired men, and followed him. So the priesthood and religious life is a particular path of following the Lord. And we want all of our young people, college students, high school, middle school, young adults, to actively consider the priesthood and religious life. And if we can help you, Father Carey or I,
call me on my cell phone.
We will help you.
Yes.
We'll talk to you. We can get Father Pratt involved. Father Pratt is our vocation director. We can help you visit religious communities. We can help you visit seminaries. It'll all be easier when COVID's over. But we can make it happen. So tell us. We can get you books that'll help you discern and discern well.
Know the Lord.
So that you can follow him and encounter him. That's all we want.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
So that's all we got. We hope your January is rocking and rolling. We hope you're looking forward to Lent. Starts February 17th. You can start preparing for that. We'll probably do a show on that.
We're going to do a show on that.
Before we get going.
I got some ideas.
And we just wish you well. And we ask you to pray for us. And we will pray for you.
God bless you. Peace.